Now that you can inspect a message's API response, check stop reason, and manage conversation context, we're going to step back and look at how those mechanics fit into a full application. This module, Claude Application Design, builds on the same 4 helpers that keep every lab's console output predictable, and it shows you how to structure prompts, handle multi-turn conversations, and design reliable Claude-powered features. You have built the demo. It works. Then someone asks for a small change and you are digging through a script, hunting for the one magic sentence buried in the code. That is where the pain lives. By the end, you will stop treating prompts like strings and start treating them like software. You will design applications where the logic, the prompt, and the transport are separate, config-driven, and versioned. One change, one file. That is the difference between a script that works once and a design you can ship. You're learning Claude Application Design, which is all about building intelligent solutions. If you work with Microsoft 365, you might be interested in a course that extends this idea into enterprise administration. It teaches you to build AI agents that automate tasks like user management, security investigations, and compliance reporting, using tools like Microsoft Graph, Python, and Azure AI. It's a practical way to apply agentic AI to real IT operations. We start by separating transport, prompt, and business logic, so you can swap any piece without rewriting the whole application. Next, we drive behavior from config instead of hard-coded strings, making your system flexible and easy to tune. Then you turn a stated business requirement into a concrete design, bridging the gap between what stakeholders ask for and what you actually build. Finally, you version a prompt the same way you version code, giving you full traceability and rollback for every interaction. You walk away with a repeatable design method you can apply to any Claude-powered application. The coupling that hurts is not obvious on day one. A messages.create call inside your business logic works perfectly until every later change forces edits to the same function. The tell is a test suite that cannot run without an API key. This step separates transport, prompt, and business logic into 3 layers that each own one reason to change. You are about to wire them together, then swap the transport for a recording version that proves the policy layer runs with 0 API calls. Priya starts with a single triage ticket function that reads the API key, builds the prompt, calls Claude, and parses the response all in 40 lines. When she writes a test, it fails immediately because Python demands a real Anthropic API key just to check whether an unclear ticket returns unclear. She pulls the API call into a Claude transport class, stores the prompt text in a prompts dictionary, and keeps only the business rule, classifying the response in a pure classify function. For testing, she drops in a recording transport that returns a hard-coded reply like fraud account takeover pattern, so the suite runs offline. Later, when the model identifier changes from Claude Opus 5 to Claude Opus 4-8, she edits only the transport layer, one file, one line, and the prompt and policy stay completely stable. We will define 3 classes: Claude Transport, Prompt Library, and Triage Policy, wire them in a main block, and then run a swap check that replaces the transport with a recording version. The output will show 12 tests passing with no API calls. The script imports the lab runtime helpers and the Anthropic SDK. It sets a model constant and a prompt dictionary keyed by version. Claude Transport is the only place that imports Anthropic and calls messages.create. Recording transport has the same send signature but replays a canned reply. Triage Policy takes a transport and a prompt version, calls send, and parses the first word as the category. In main, we wire a real transport, print the layer summary, then swap in a recording transport and run 12 triage calls all offline. The header confirms the exam domain and technique. The layer summary shows transport, prompt, and policy each with 0 or 1 API import, exactly one call site for messages.create. Then the swap check runs 12 policy tests with a recording transport. All 12 pass, 0 API calls were made, and the runtime is essentially instant. That is the proof. The business logic is fully decoupled from the network. If your own tests cannot run without a key, the layers are not separated, whatever the file structure looks like. Hardcoded strings force a code deploy for every small change. Configuration lets non-engineers tune behavior safely, but only if the config is validated. A config file that is read but never checked is dangerous, a typo becomes a silent default, and the wrong behavior ships looking correct. In this step, we load a YAML config, apply environment overrides through an explicit map, and reject unknown keys at load time. That way, the stack trace still points at the config file, not somewhere deep in production. Watch for the validation block. When we feed it a misspelled key, it raises a config error with a helpful suggestion. Imagine a config file that accidentally sets triage model instead of model. When load config runs, it compares the raw keys against the known defaults. The unknown key triage model is detected, and the function raises a config error immediately. The error message even suggests the closest valid key model, so the fix is obvious. Because this happens at load time, the app never starts with a broken config, and the traceback points straight at the config file, not some distant line of business logic. We will load a triage config from disk, print its values, override the model via an environment variable, and then deliberately introduce a typo to see the validation reject it. We start with a defaults dictionary and an env overrides map that ties specific environment variables to config keys, no prefix scanning, so a typoed environment var does nothing. The load config function merges defaults with the on-disk values, then applies any matching env overrides. Before returning, it checks for unknown keys by comparing the raw input against the known defaults. If it finds one, it raises a config error with a "did you mean" hint. In main, we call load config twice, once clean, once with triage model set to Claude Sonnet 5, and finally with a misspelled prompt varison to trigger the rejection. First we see the clean config loaded from the file model, max tokens, effort, prompt version, and categories all printed. Then the environment override kicks in, triage model replaces the model with Claude Sonnet 5, and the source column confirms it came from env. Finally, the validation block catches the unknown key prompt varison and raises a config error, suggesting the correct prompt version. This is the pitfall in action, a config that silently accepted that typo would have shipped with the wrong prompt version and no one would know. Rejecting unknown keys at load makes the failure loud and immediate. A business requirement arrives as a single sentence, but buried inside it is an engineering decision you have to surface before you write a line of code. The technique here is decomposition. You pull apart the requirement into measurable outcome, what is in scope, what is explicitly out of scope, the inputs you actually have, and, critically, how you will know the answer is right. That last piece, verifiability, is the one most people skip, and it is the difference between tuning and luck. Once the decomposition is solid, the architecture falls out of it naturally rather than being chosen first and justified afterwards. Watch how a single sentence requirement turns into a design with a clear failure mode and a human-in-the-loop checkpoint. Support says they need to stop reading every ticket to find the urgent ones. That hides the real engineering problem. We decompose it. The measurable outcome is time to first response on P1 tickets. Scope is just classifying inbound tickets into P1 through P4 with a reason, no replying, no closing, no refunds. Inputs are the ticket subject, body, and account tier, all confirmed available. For verification, we test against 200 human triage tickets, with P1 recall as the key metric because missing a P1 is costly. Out-of-scope items prevent feature creep, and because the task is a single classification, the architecture falls out naturally, one API call, no agent. That's how a business ask becomes a design. We will take the requirement support should stop reading every ticket to find the urgent ones, decompose it into 7 structured elements, and then derive the architecture directly from that decomposition. The script prints a header identifying the exam, module, and step, then displays the raw requirement. Next it iterates through a list of decomposition tuples, measurable outcome, in scope, out of scope, input available, output verifiable, failure mode, and human in the loop, printing each label and its value. After the decomposition, it prints the design decision, a single messages call with structured output and no agent, followed by the reason that one input and one decision need no exploration. Finally, it prints an exam note about spotting hidden engineering decisions and a pitfall warning that skipping out of scope causes accidental feature growth. The decomposition shows exactly what the theory predicted. The measurable outcome is time to first response on P1 tickets, not a vague better support. In scope is classification only, out of scope explicitly excludes replying, closing, and refunds, that is the pitfall line that prevents scope creep. The verifiability clause confirms the output will be checked against 200 human triage tickets, and the failure mode names P1 recall as the metric because a missed P1 is costly. Every P1 still gets a human reread before paging. From that, the design is a single messages call with structured output, no agent, because there is one input, one decision, and no exploration. The architecture really did fall out of the decomposition. A prompt edited in place has no rollback. Saying we'll change it back isn't a plan, because nobody recorded what it was. The fix is to treat prompts the way we treat code, store them in a registry with version tags, pin the running config to a specific version, and lock that version's content with a hash. That way, rolling back is a one-line config change, not a scramble. In this step, you'll see a 3-version prompt registry, an active pin, a log file check, and a rehearsed rollback drill that proves the old version still hits its recorded eval score. Here we have triage/v3, our latest prompt, classify the ticket, using the account tier. If ambiguous, say unclear. When we promote v3, we compute its SHA-256 hash and write it into a log file. During deployment, the system hashes the prompt it's about to use and compares it to the log file. If they match, we know we're running exactly what we tested. If someone accidentally edits the prompt text, the hashes won't match, and the deploy is blocked, preventing silent drift. Later, if we need to roll back to v2, we just change the active version in config. The log file ensures we get the exact v2 prompt, and we can confirm its recall score of 0.88 is restored. The script prints a prompt registry with 3 versions, shows which one is pinned active, verifies the log file hash, and runs a rollback drill against v2. Watch for the active marker, the hash match, and the recall score confirming the rollback. The script defines a registry list of 4 tuples, version tag, date, note, and P1 recall score. It sets active to triage/v3 and stores the actual prompt text for v2 and v3. A log file dictionary holds the SHA-256 hash of the active prompt, written when v3 was pinned. The deploy check recomputes the hash and compares it to the log file. Then the rollback drill calls eval recall for v2, prints the score, and confirms it matches the expected 0.88. The registry shows 3 versions with increasing recall scores, and v3 is marked active. The pinned config line confirms triage/v3. The deploy check reports the hash matches the log file, so production isn't running something that drifted on disk. Then the rollback drill pins to v2, reruns the eval, and returns a p1 recall of 0.88 in 4 seconds. That's the whole point. A prompt change that makes things worse can be undone by changing one config value, and the eval proves you're back where you were. We walked through 4 design patterns you can now script with PowerShell: isolating transport, prompt and business logic, pulling behavior from configuration, designing from a business requirement, and versioning your prompts. The single most useful thing to carry away is that a prompt is a software artifact. When you treat it like code, you can automate its design, its storage, and its evolution, and that changes how you build every Claude-powered feature from the first line. So to wrap up, keep transport, prompt, and business logic separate so each can change independently. Dry behavior from config, not hard-coded strings, to avoid redeploys. Turn a stated business requirement directly into a design. And version your prompts just like code. It makes iterations safe and traceable.